Hey everybody, this is the Computer Geek 010101001 here, and today I have a major channel update video for y'all, which also happens to involve major updates to basically everything. No, I'm not kidding. Yes, it's 9:30 in the morning on Saturday, June 20th, 2020. You don't believe me? I'll go ahead and change over to my desktop. But yes, here we are. And to sum it up, I'm changing operating systems on basically everything. No, I'm not going back to Windows. That's a given. Absolutely not going back to Windows. I'm going from Ubuntu 18.04.4 LTS to Debian 10. And I'm also going to be changing a few things around. One of those is I'm pushing out full disk encryption across all of my machines. The second thing is I'm going from Chrome to Firefox for multiple reasons, which I'll be getting into shortly. And also email clients. Yeah, so let's go ahead and transition back to our desktop. So you can see that I have Firefox, HexChat, Nautilus, and OBS open. And you see my RAM usage down here is actually relatively low. Yeah, so if we pull up HTOP, we can see that I'm using about 3.05 gigabytes out of what is more or less 16 gigabytes. And if we go percent memory, OBS is the top offender in that category, using 3.7% of my RAM. It's also using 115% of my CPU, but that's to be expected since it is doing some software encoding. So, actually, let's go back into HTOP. So, I'm going to open Chrome. Now, we're gonna go ahead and get into why I'm switching away from Chrome in favor of Firefox. So I'm gonna hit the thing for Chrome. 3.10 gig, 3.26, 3.29, 3.32, and yeah, basically our RAM usage goes ahead and climbs. And you can see all of the Chrome processes starting to climb the list in terms of RAM usage. Now, and we have 41 new emails, most of those being system status updates. But as you can see, OBS still maintains top spot for most RAM usage right now, with Chrome being somewhere between 0.1% of my RAM all the way down to 0.3%. But we're using about 3.7 gigabytes of RAM. Refresh this, that way extensions can have their effect. And OBS is still the top spot. We're using about 3.8 gigabytes. Now, if we go ahead and head on over to YouTube, that's about when the RAM usage starts to go flying. And we can see our Chrome processes are now climbing the list. And so, yeah, now we have YouTube open. If we go to one of the best channels on YouTube, of course none other than my own featured channels, UXW Bill, V Westlife, and TechMoan. But if we go ahead, and I'm going to mute YouTube so you don't hear it blasting in your headphones all of a sudden. But if we go and pull up some videos, well, one video, we just let that run in the background. we suddenly see that Chrome is tying up 3% of our RAM, just short of OBS's 3.7%, and we're using 4.12 gigabytes. Now, if we go to Facebook, by the way, you're never going to see me go to Facebook on video unless it is to my YouTube channel's Facebook page. So if we go to Facebook and we immediately go back to HTOP, we see our RAM use is starting to climb big time. 4.5 gigabytes, and Chrome is now second in terms of RAM usage, just like it was last time. And it's also using a fair bit of our CPU as we suddenly get absolutely bombarded with notifications. Yeah, let's go ahead and let this finish piling up all over our desktop. By the way, the See More Memories button in the new Facebook layout is completely broken. Yeah. So, yeah. Point is, Chrome is a RAM hog. A big RAM hog. It doesn't seem like one right now, but Chrome has very recently developed a rather quirky new behavior that only serves to annoy me in a rather expedient fashion. That is, leaking massive quantities of RAM from the shared memory pool and doing it in such a way that I cannot clear the absolute monstrous RAM leak. Yeah. I'll go ahead and insert that video right now. Hey everybody, this is Computergeek01010101 here, and well, let's just say this is what happens when Chrome goes absolutely stupid. So as you can see, my hard drive activity indicator is just going. Keep in mind, I'm not touching the system. I'm not trying to perform anything disk intensive. In fact, the only things I have open is one instance of Firefox with 3 YouTube tabs, my IRC client, and VLC, which isn't doing anything at the moment. And yet, here we are with my hard drive activity indicator absolutely going berserk. Now, why is that? Well, it's because Chrome went stupid and hogged a ton of RAM. As you can see, we're using pretty much every little last bit of RAM main RAM we have, and our swap space is doing similar. And pretty much all of the RAM is completely full thanks to Chrome leaking from the shared memory pool and doing so in such a way that I can't clear it. So, yeah. Only way to clear it is reboot the system, by the way, and, well, there goes 6 days of uptime. But it literally takes 5 minutes of sometimes it feels like it takes 5 minutes of paging the disk before it actually does anything useful. I mean, let's switch to another tab. That reacted quicker than I thought it would. Oh, and YouTube starts getting real funny whenever you try to play videos whenever you're stupidly low on swap space or RAM or both. Thankfully, I have an SSD. Thankfully, swap is sitting on an SSD. And we go ahead and just run this all the way back to 001 and hit play. the video quits for a moment, and then the playhead just starts moving. By the way, if you haven't seen the original video, I highly suggest you go watch it. And it looks like it's mostly caught up. And if we try to hit pause, I clicked it, I want pause. It says pause right there, but this keeps running. Oh, there it goes. 30 seconds later. And my hard drive activity indicator is still full blast. So yeah, that's just one of the reasons why I'm switching to Firefox before I go ahead and reinstall all of this stuff. Okay, so as you saw there, tons of swap operations. Thankfully, I have an SSD, which significantly reduces the performance impact, but it's still a major performance impact on the system. And we were probably saturating one of the involved data transfer buses, which could have been the SSD itself. It could have been saturating a SATA 3 link, which wouldn't surprise me at all. But yeah. And if you hear fan noise in the background, that's likely my GPU doing that's likely my GPU fans, because I have my GPU doing the real heavy lifting in terms of hardware encoding for OBS and subsequently this video. Oh, by the way, I'm not exactly fully awake yet, so yeah, that explains the voice and the fact that I'm not in regular day clothing, if you haven't already noticed that. But yeah. Anyways, 4.53 gigabytes right now. However, if I go and watch a dozen YouTube videos or so in a row, believe me, that 4.5 gigabytes is going to be more like 15 gigabytes. And literally anything I do with YouTube is going to be very, very, very laggy. Because let's go to YouTube and let's just start scanning all over the timeline. And you can see a spike in our CPU usage down here. If we go full screen, yeah, that takes a little while. And if we exit full screen, that also takes a good little while, whilst at the same time putting a significant load on our CPU. Now, if we go and click on a different video and attempt the same experiment, it takes even longer to go in and out of full screen. And this only just gets worse with any other video. With each video I watch. Here we see it's taking a while to actually load a video. And it takes even longer to go into full screen. It takes even longer to go out of full screen. If we go back into full screen and scroll, if there's a bunch of comments, this gets really laggy really quickly. Oh look, we have another UXW build video and a rather old UXW build video. If we watch a UXW build video and try to exit full screen, it does so rather quickly. But yeah. Now, if we go ahead and kill that particular instance, and we go and look up, let's say, random YouTube video, UXW Bill. This is a...
Hello there, everyone. You have tuned in.
There we go. There's a mute tab. If we start this playing and go to full screen, we pretty much jump right into full screen. Now, if we go and exit full screen, we just jump right out of full screen. And yeah, it's pretty expedient on that. No matter how many videos I watch. Being me in Windows 7, yeah, this is where he runs manages to get Windows 7 running on a Pentium 3. But as you can see, we can just jump all over in and out of full screen, dozens of videos. We can just jump in and out of full screen on dozens of videos, and it works quite efficiently. So, yeah, there's a multitude of reasons why I'm switching away from Chrome. Now we're about to get into the reasons why I'm switching to Debian 10. So, you ever heard of NetPlan? Have you ever heard of Snap? No, not the group Snap. You know, the group that made the Power by Snap. No, I'm talking about a software packaging system. Both of those are Canonical creations. Creations in air quotes, by the way. If we go Snap, yeah, if we go to Snap, Ubuntu, yeah, Snapcraft. If we go to the Snapcraft website, we see, scroll all the way down, yeah, copyright 2020, Canonical Limited. Now, is Snap open source? Let's see. So if we... Okay, quit throwing stuff in my way, Google. Usage, criticism. Still mainly a Ubuntu show. If highlight all, green, oh yeah. While Canonical views the Snap ecosystem as a compelling distribution agnostic solution, quote, so if we were to open source a Snap store, does that actually benefit us in any meaningful way? History shows that perhaps it doesn't. That's not to say that we may not open source it in the future. Yeah, that is a closed source proprietary Canonical creation. Also, NetPlan. NetPlan. If we go all the way down to the bottom of the NetPlan page, yep, copyright 2020 Canonical Limited. Also, that isn't open source. Yet again, another proprietary Canonical creation. Oh, by the way, both of which are completely inferior to what they're replacing. NetPlan is just a NetPlan is just a giant disaster for multiple reasons. First of all, it uses YAML files for its configuration, and those YAML files are space and or tab sensitive. And I'm not going to bother with counting spaces or tabs. By the way, but depending on your system configuration, what monitor you have, if you have a halfway decent monitor or whatnot, you really don't have a way of telling how many spaces or tabs precede or follow a line. So yeah, that's just a configuration nightmare in and of itself. I mean, not to mention it's being used on practically a few operating systems, all of which are Ubuntu and every single one of their derivatives. Of their direct derivatives, to be exact, like, Ubuntu Server, X Ubuntu, things like that. I haven't looked and checked to see if indirect Ubuntu derivatives, such as Linux Mint or whatnot, are using NetPlan. I would not be surprised if they were not. I also wouldn't be surprised if they were using it. But anyways, NetPlan is a disaster, and I refuse to use it. In fact, if you go and watch my video entitled File Server Fiasco, pretty much the very first thing I do as soon as I get the system installed is I immediately gut NetPlan out of the system and replace it with the bog standard generic if up down. Like the one that provides if config, if up, if down, that. And this just works. And it's rather common across a whole bunch of different operating systems. Guess what? You don't get this in Guess what? You no longer get this by default in Ubuntu 18.04 and higher. Oh, by the way, another thing about NetPlan is if you upgrade from a pre-1804 operating system to 1804 or higher, you get NetPlan and the whole works dragged in. Everything, including the kitchen sink and the title to the land, basically. And as a result of, but it keeps it disabled for some reason. Yeah, okay, I guess. Now, if you're someone like me and you use EasyTether Pro, you have to have NetPlan running to be able to use it on Ubuntu operating systems. And as a result, I've had to enable it, thanks to a rather garbage Netgear modem that randomly died. Or, well, not exactly randomly died, but let's just say Netgear kept knocking all of T-Mobile's customers offline, and T-Mobile told Netgear to go take a flying leap. And Netgear performed actions to the effect of that. So, yeah. So I was stuck on my tether for a while. But anyways, we're past that. As you can see, the phone tether interface down here is down. Yeah. Interface down, because I haven't used it since the system came up 26 minutes ago. How long is this recording? About 19 minutes. So, system was up for about 7 minutes whenever I hit record. But yeah, one weird bug that happens whenever you enable NetPlan at the same time you have if up down running is you get two Net Manager icons up here. And there's a couple of theories behind that. One of them is Net Manager is attaching to both if up down and NetPlan. And another one is there is a modified copy of Net Manager being drug in along with NetPlan and all of that other garbage, and it's popping up in the system tray as a result of that. It is a completely random bug. Like, as you can see right now, I only have one Network Manager icon, but before I rebooted the system, I had two of them. Also, It seems like the operating system continues to get more and more and more and more unfinished as time goes on. Something I noticed is that the first boot following a Ubuntu Server 1804 system coming up or being installed, it spews garbage all over the screen, and then I have to Control C to get the garbage off of there, effectively performing a terminal reset. So, yeah, haven't seen it before, and I don't intend on seeing it. Anytime soon. Also, Canonical is forcing Snap on their end users. In fact, if we just go all the way back to a new tab, okay, that's not popping up in there, but Linux Mint does not support Snap out of the box. Yeah, I'm trying to find something on the Linux Mint website. Here we go. I think it was a ZDNet thing. Yeah, Linux Mint is one of the most popular Linux distributions, and it's my favorite, and this is from the perspective of the author. In part because while it's based on Debian, Linux, and Ubuntu, it goes its own way. For example, its developers created their own excellent desktop interface, Cinnamon. Now, Mint's programmers, led by lead developer Clement Clem, I'm not going to try to pronounce that last name because I'll probably butcher it, has dropped support for Ubuntu Snap software packaging system. Snap, along with its rivals Flatpak and AppImage, are alternative ways to install applications on Linux systems. The older ways of Linux applications, such as Deb and RPM package management systems for the Debian and Red Hat Linux families, include the source code and hard-coded paths for each program. Of course, well used for decades, traditional packages are troublesome to developers. Blah 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 blah. Snap avoids this by incorporating the application and its libraries into a single package. It's then installed and mounted on a Squash FS virtual file system, which, by the way, every single one of those file systems, mounted or not, will show up in an fdisk-L. Stand by. Yeah, you see all of these loop volumes. Yeah, that's Snap. That's because of Snap's garbage that they introduce into the system. Disk dev slash dev slash loop 0 all the way down to dev loop 4. That is a result of Snap. And I only have one Snap package installed, and that's a modified copy of Mindtest, which I really just need to eradicate that whole garbage off of my system sooner rather than later. Yeah. Now, imagine a system based primarily off of Snap packages, like, Ubuntu 2004. Yeah, you are going to get hundreds of these sitting in an fdisk-L. Hundreds of these. So you're not going to be able to find garbage in here, because 95% of it is just going to be random noise, effectively. And as Alan Pope, Canonical's community manager for Ubuntu Engineering Services, explained at 2019's Linux Application Summit, or LAS, quote, it's more empowering developers to get their packages into users' hands very fast. They don't need to worry about the distribution, end quote. So, what's not to like? Well, a lot, thinks Clem. As he wrote in July 2019, the idea is fine. Quote, when Snap was announced, it was supposed to be a solution, not a problem. It was supposed to make it possible to run newer apps on top of older libraries and to let third-party editors publish their software easily towards multiple distributions, just like Flatpak and AppImage. But, he said, quote, What we didn't want it to be was for Canonical to control the distribution of software between distributions and third-party editors, to prevent direct distribution from editors, to make it so software worked better in Ubuntu than anywhere else, and to make its store a requirement. Clem was worried that Canonical was moving in that direction because, quote, Ubuntu is planning to replace the Chromium, Google's open source browser and the foundation for Chrome, repository package with an empty package, which then goes behind your back, installs the Chromium Snap package. In other words, as you install apt, Debian's program for installing and managing deb files updates, Snap becomes a requirement for you to continue to use Chromium and installs itself behind your back. This breaks one of the major worries many people had when Snap was announced, and a promise from its developers that it would never replace apt. A self-installing Snap store which overwrites part of our apt package base is a complete no-no. It's something we have to stop, and it could mean the end of Chromium updates and access to the Snap store and Linux Mint. End quote. Fast forward to now, and that's still the case with Chromium, and Clem has had enough. Quote, in the Ubuntu 2004 package base, the Chromium package is indeed empty and acting without your consent as a backdoor by connecting your computer to the Ubuntu store. Applications in this store cannot be patched or pinned. You cannot audit them, you cannot hold them, you cannot modify them, or even point Snap to a different store. You have as much empowerment with this as if you were using proprietary software, i.e. none. This is in effect similar to a commercial proprietary solution, but with two major differences. One, it runs as root, and two, it installs itself without asking you. End quote. So basically, Snap is acting like malware. Even worse, it might be acting. No, this is definitely malware. You know Windows 10 and their forced updates and all that stuff? Yeah. I'm likening Snap to be basically Windows 10, except they took the updates and replaced it with all of the applications you use on your system. Oh, by the way, Snap auto updates everything. When it feels like, when it wants to, you have no control over it. Which, yeah, I'm not using that. I am not using that garbage. Mint never shipped Snapd, Snap's daemon program, or any snaps, but moving ahead in Linux Mint 20, Chromium will not be an empty package which installs Snapd behind your back. It will be an empty package which tells you why it's empty and tells you where to look to get Chromium yourself. Further, apt will forbid Snapd from installing. Mind you, quote, you'll still be able to install it yourself, and we'll document this in the release notes, but by default, apt will not allow repository packages from doing this on your behalf. End quote. So yeah, Snap is basically malware, and Linux Mint is absolutely fed up with it. And I've actually done some looking. It's like, oh, I've actually went and done some looking, and Debian's core founding principles where is it? News, getting Debian. Social contract. Debian will remain 100% free, where free is defined in the document entitled the Debian Free Software Guidelines. We will not works that do not meet our free software standards get shoehorned off into optional repositories, basically. So yeah, Snap and NetPlan are never going to make it into the default set of software packages that Debian will ship with. So basically the way the Debian social contract is set up, Snap, and NetPlan are automatically, by default, never going to make it into the core system software. So, yeah, another reason why I'm switching to Debian. Let me see. Snap. I actually went and read a rather large thread about disabling Snap auto updating. And yeah, basically Snap auto updates, and I don't like that, and a whole bunch of other people don't like that, and it really reminds me of Windows 10, which is why I switched to Linux in the first place, is to get away from all of Microsoft's garbage. And really, I would not be surprised if Canonical was in cahoots with Microsoft. I really wouldn't be surprised. You can do that research and figure that out on your own. I'm not going to, because then this would just turn into an even bigger rant against Microsoft. But, anyways, I'm also making some hardware I'm also going to make some hardware changes to equipment, mainly pertaining to the tech room. There already has been a minor hardware change performed to the main computer setup, and that's just a brand new mouse. So, if I transition over to the webcam that I'm totally not looking at right now, I'll be able to go and get some boxes and stuff and show you. By the way, don't you just love allergies? Welcome to East Texas. Nowhereland, Texas. So, yeah, the thing about the thing that I changed with the main computer would be the mouse. And this is the mouse. This is an Elecom EX-G Pro trackball mouse. Probably not able to see it very well because, webcams and focusing on this webcam is horrifically old. Yeah. Yeah, this is a trackball mouse. In fact, if I go and I move the webcam over to the mouse, you can basically see that I use my thumb to control the mouse. In fact, if I hit transition, you'll see that the mouse is moving all over the screen. And if I transition back, that's because of me using the trackball on said mouse. Now, if I can ever get this camera positioned properly again, okay, good, there we go. So yeah, that's a new mouse. And this mouse, I believe, was released sometime in 2018, and Elecom still has not localized the packaging for the United States, or pretty much generally anywhere outside of Japan. Because you can see there's Japanese all over the box. It's on the front, it's on the back, it's on the inside. Good luck reading any of that, because it's in Japanese and it's also out of focus. Yeah. Now on to the tech room side of things. USB 3.0 to be exact. That's been out for quite a long time, and only now are the tech room computers getting an upgrade. I went ahead and also purchased 2 of these FebSmart USB 3 cards. It said, the box says PCI Express serial, but I guarantee you, my microphone way back there, but I guarantee you that it's not a serial card. In fact, we go ahead and look inside the box. There's the USB 3 card. Oh, and the screws fell out. That's lovely. Well, the one screw. And the other box, the other box is basically just like that. So, and then I have two 3.3 foot USB 3.0 extension cables. Nothing real special. And that's so that way I can plug stuff into those USB 3 cards without having to reach around the back of the computer. And that's also especially helpful if it's something like the file server fiasco video where it's 1 o'clock in the morning and I'm trying to plug something in. So yeah, the two USB 3 cards will be going into my file server and the main office computer in the tech room. And those USB 3 extension cables will be getting attached to those particular USB 3 cards. So let's see, I've covered switching away from Chrome, switching away from Canonical operating systems. Oh, one more thing about why I'm switching away from Canonical operating systems, i.e. Ubuntu and all direct and or indirect derivatives. Well, let's just say I feel like Canonical is starting to wall off their operating system environment, and I don't like that, so I'm switching away. So, yeah. Also, my primary email client is going to become not Thunderbird. Let's see. No, it's not Thunderbird. Oh, what is it? Internet. I don't know, let's click Mail Reader and see what it comes up with. No, I don't want Chrome. Okay, let's see what we come up with. Evolution. And of course, go ahead and close that out. Close Evolution with pending background operations. But yes, you pretty much cannot stop Snap from auto-updating. Yeah. But yeah, I remember reading a rather big thread about disabling automatic updating on Snap. And this was a big thread, like 8 or 9 pages when I last checked. Here's a Reddit thread, or a Reddit post. But yeah, I believe I've covered everything that I intended to cover in this update video. Oh, by the way, this is going to be the last update video you see on my YouTube channel for a while, because pretty soon I'm pretty much going to be going radio silent. And yeah, what I'm going to be doing on all of my systems is I'm going to be wiping them, and installing Debian 10. Now, for my main computer, it's probably going to be down. It's probably going to be offline for right about a week, because I'm going to be wiping both of my 2 terabyte data storage drives. Of course, after backing them up and whatnot. And I'm also going to go ahead and wipe the SSD. The camera's tilted. Basically by sending an ATA secure erase command to it. But I'm either going to use the DoD short 3-pass wipe, the regular DoD 7-pass wipe, or I may just Gutman the whole thing. 35 passes, but 35 passes I think would be quite a long time. I'm definitely not going to be running Gutman on the file server, because that would be forever. In fact, I think I did a DoD 7-pass wipe and it took 2 days. I think. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah. But once the system is wiped, I am going to be installing Debian 10 with full disk encryption. On all drives. So if the system does manage to be physically stolen and the drives removed out of the system, well, they're not going to get very far, because pretty much the only useful thing they can do with the drives is wipe them and use them for their own purposes. So, and then after that I'll start the arduous task of reinstalling and reconfiguring pretty much everything. Now, also, why am I reinstalling the system? Well, there's a bunch of tiny little bugs. And one of the more recent bugs the system has acquired is if say I have window A, window B, and window C. I'm way off the edge of the camera. So like say if I have window A, window B, and window C, and my focus was last on window B, and I'm currently on window A, and I close window A, you would expect to jump back to window B, because that's the window that most recently had focus, but no, it'll jump to window C, or sometimes it won't even focus on a window at all. It'll focus on my desktop. Yeah, the system has quite a few tiny little bugs in it. And well, let's just say it's time for the cobwebs to be blown out. So, but yeah, I think I've covered everything I intended to cover in this video. If I didn't, you'll see that in the additional notes section of the video description, which I highly encourage everyone to read on any of my videos. In fact, generally any video description in general. So, yeah. This is the Computer Geek 010101001 here. Peace out, guys. Peace out.